All right, guys, we're back with a huge update on the Sledgehammer versus SVJ lawsuit. Now, if you're new to the channel, a few months ago, my best friend was driving his Lamborghini down the street and 3 men attacked him, one smashing this $1 million car with an actual sledgehammer.
A piece of person who has a small who needs this car to feel good about himself.
Small, hold on, small you motherfucker.
I'm a small
motherfucker. That's right, you are.
Okay, I got Ali and Ronnie from the Slay Law Group with a huge update, the biggest one yet. Don't go anywhere.
That's right, Dave. We have the biggest update yet. The last time we were here, we talked about how all the parties were officially served, and now all the parties have lawyered up, except for one of them. Stay tuned, you want to find out who that is.
That's right. There's 4 parties involved in this lawsuit. One has not gotten a lawyer. Now, if you're wondering who they are, the last video went into deep detail about each party, and it's all led to one case. If you haven't seen that video, click the link in the description. We're picking up right where we left off with a major update in this case.
All right, guys, all of you have watched TV. Many of you have seen Law and Order. They think that when a lawsuit is filed, presto, everybody's before the judge and before the grand jury, ready to get the case settled and dismissed. Well, that's not really how it works. There's steps to get to that stage, and oftentimes that's the last resort. So what the court will do, they'll mandate that the parties, the attorneys, and the other attorneys engage in settlement discussions. That's the stage we're at today, and that's the big update we have for you guys.
We are going to start off with Beanie, and for everyone who's been following this case, you know exactly who we're talking about. And so Beanie has indeed lawyered up, and we've been discussing with Beanie's lawyer about settlement. So first things first, when it comes to settlement, is money. So they presented us with a number, and we are not happy with that number because it does not justify his actions on that day. They will need to up that number if we are to come to resolution, at least as to money. Now, there are other things in the settlement that also comes into play, and it really could be anything you want. Common things that come into settlement agreements are, one, what's called a non-disparagement agreement. Now, what that means is that both parties agree that you will not talk poorly about one another on social media, in person, pretty much anywhere. It just kind of protects both parties that there's not going to continue to be hostility, adverse actions against each other going into the future. So that's a very common part of settlement agreements, and can totally see it coming into play in our case.
The next step above that is called an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. And then the settlement request can be as crazy as you like. Let's say hypothetically, Beanie made the demand that he wants his company to be promoted in a daily driven exotics video. Chances are that's not gonna happen, but you can start to see that the demands can be as crazy as you like. And the crazier they are, the less likely we are to come to a settlement agreement. And that's where we're headed with Beanie. At the next phase of the litigation process, it's called discovery, and it is bad. Discovery gets so messy, and unfortunately, that's where we're headed with Beanie. We're gonna explain just how bad it's gonna get, but in a little bit. For now, we're gonna talk about the next defendant.
All right, next we're on to Green Shirt and the construction company. Let us start first with Green Shirt. He has retained an attorney. We've been in talks with his attorney. There's been some numbers tossed around. We're not too happy with it, and there's not really much to report on after that. We'll give you guys an update if we get closer to a settlement, but nothing really going on right now. But we want to get to the next point, which is going to be the construction company. When you own a construction company, you are required to have insurance. The benefit of having insurance is that they will cover your liability in an action where, let's just say, you are getting sued. Now, the downfall is if you're not actually insured, there can be a whole lot of trouble, which happens to be the case in this lawsuit. It poses the question, who in their right mind does not insure their own company? I'll tell you who. It's the same middle-aged man who pulls over a YouTuber in a neon orange Lamborghini in the middle of the street and tells him, put that on YouTube after harassing him.
Small man with a small dick. Put that on YouTube.
That's who does that. And so what we see here in the litigation process, we call this a double whammy. Because now that the company is not insured, the responsibility falls on the owner. So now Green Shirt will be responsible not only for his own actions, but also the actions of his company of negligently hiring, training, and supervising Sledgehammer. So now he will have to pay the liability of both company and him individually.
I cannot believe this.
Tell him.
Just when you thought you could not make a worse decision than not insuring your own company, I got something that's gonna absolutely top that. We got one defendant left, and it is the infamous man who smashed this neon orange Lamborghini
So you hit my car with that.
Oh, I don't know, did I?
And he made the worst decision you can make in a lawsuit. And he is representing himself.
Oh my God! That's bad. Tell him why
I
it's
cannot
bad.
believe he did. The number one golden rule in a lawsuit is do not represent yourself. Hire lawyers. And the reason being is because the law is very complicated. The entire litigation process is very complicated. It's not common knowledge. You need an expert who understands everything to help you guide through the process. Not having an attorney will end up with an answer that's only 3 pages long. In all my years of practice, this is the worst answer I've ever seen to a complaint. For example, one of his defenses is latches, which means an untimely filed action, that we didn't timely file the complaint. The complaint was filed within weeks. This is not a defense. All of the defenses are not valid. This is a great reason why you always want to hire a lawyer whenever you're involved in a lawsuit.
Would a judge be lenient because he did it himself?
The judge does not care. Sledgehammer is an adult. He can make his own decisions. He decided to represent himself. If he makes a mistake, the judge will not be lenient on him at all. And so he's essentially subjecting himself to penalties and fines later on in the discovery process.
All right, just to wrap things up with Sledgehammer, he is indeed making the worst decision of his life by representing himself, and there is no doubt in my mind that we will be wiping the floor with him in court. We have another huge update regarding Sledgehammer. The district attorney is actually pursuing charges against Sledgehammer, and he has a court date coming up very soon. And just as a reminder, he is being charged with a felony, so this is very serious. We'll be sure to keep you guys updated as soon as we get any confirmation of the charges and let you guys know the status of it.
All right, guys, back to the last piece with Beanie entering into the discovery phase. And in all honesty, as a person, I don't like this part of my job, but it is my legal duty to provide the best representation for my clients. Essentially, it's an interrogation. Just like how a cop interrogates a suspect, lawyers essentially interrogate parties in the action. And so I have to ask the most invasive and the most personal questions. Essentially, what I'm doing is taking the skeletons out of the closet and bringing them into the light. And the information I uncover is not confidential, so it can be discussed at a later time. And the discovery process is not only invasive, it's also expensive because you have to pay attorney fees. Attorney fees you're gonna be paying for the discovery process might even be more than what you could have settled before we got to that stage. Why we're going through this process now, it's beyond me, but the 3 Musketeers, they made the decision to do so. They continue to make bad decisions, and here we are. Stay tuned for the next video.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot more videos coming. We have Sledgehammer going to court. Will he be found guilty? Is there jail time? Is there community service? We have the construction company. They had no insurance. What's gonna happen with that? Then we have all these discovery questions. Man, lots of content coming your way. Smash the subscribe button. Thank you, Salah Law Group, for coming in. This was crazy.
Oh, and by the way, the discovery questions that I'm gonna be asking, the answers have to be answered under oath, which means if I catch the party lying, they're gonna be facing perjury charges, which is a crime. They could be facing jail time, so it's taken very seriously. Next up is green shirt.
I was saying it. I don't know.
Pointed at me, I thought it was gonna be me.
Okay, I don't know. I was gonna
Heads in the game.
Holy
boys.
Cut.